Plains, it's so dewy, and actually I'll stop for a moment, not to make Jeandre's life difficult, just because it's such a pretty view in its own way. Sorry, Genevieve, I will get back to you in a moment. I'm just looking at the chloris grass in the dew, Jeandre, on the top of that termite mound, the fluffy grass. So the dew point, obviously a little bit lower than it usually is, and it's causing our camera to mist up first thing in the morning. Still misting.
Sorry, bro.
It's all right, Jeandre, it's not your fault. All the things that one might have done off air or edited out of a documentary or something similar doesn't really work on live wildlife filming. So Genevieve, you were wondering, would a leopard ever favor, on back to the subject at hand, would a leopard ever favor a cub on the basis of size or sex? And the answer is no. Generally, they won't. There might be, the only difference that you will see will be in terms of the cub's characters. And you do see it. Almost invariably, the female cubs are a little bit more timid than the male cubs initially. The males often set out to explore far sooner than the females. They tend to be bolder in terms of the distance they will travel, that exploration. And for those of you who were watching the sighting yesterday, when Karula called, and it's the most incredible call to hear a leopard calling her cubs, it sounds like a frog. That's the best explanation I have for it. Rah, 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 rah. It sounds like a tree frog or a foam nest frog. But when Karula called, the one cub came from further away, but with much less trepidation than the second cub did. And they were completely separate to each other. They'd obviously been hiding out after the kudu alarm calls, but the one approached much quicker than the other, and that's where their characters and their different personalities come in. So whilst a mother will never favor one cub over the other, one personality might be bolder and more prepared to go on the search for food. Let's head back across to Brent. I'm going to try and get you this incredible view of the misty morning. Oh, in that case, we shall not go across to Brent, who apparently doesn't have any signal. And I will try and show you, in fact, maybe the best way to show you. I'll show you quickly what I was looking at, and then we can head across to Brent, who seems to have regained signal. Let's just take this 2-track quickly. Drainage line. Perfectly outlined in mist. I think that's exactly where the Mawati is. Makes the most sense. It's in the right direction, certainly. And that low dip just giving rise to that dew point. And that's, of course, is why Jeandre needed to wipe the lens as he did. Beautiful morning. Let's try again and see what the morning looks like from Brent's perspective.
So we are exploring new ground, and with new ground comes new things, and we spotted a little bird, a little raptor, and Bryan has spotted a different one to me, even. There's a couple in the tree. which is a good hint to what bird this is. Now look at that, isn't that exquisite? You can see the very distinct red feet. Bryan, if you come up to the right, there's a bit of preening going on by the other one. Now, this is a very cool little bird of prey. And there's a pair of them here. There could be a few more around that we might not be seeing. I'm just trying to have a scan around. And a very small raptor. So these small raptors are mostly insectivores. They will eat other stuff, but their main food is insects. Now, I'm wondering, who can tell me what it is? So a nice little Cheetah Plains early morning test for you guys. Who can identify these little raptors? If you can identify these little raptors, pop me an email on questions at wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter. And look at that, basking in that beautiful morning light. Now, as we move through to the colder months, we're going to be seeing quite a bit more of this behavior from a lot of birds that are going to be basking and enjoying the early morning sunlight. And of course, there's not a lot of insects that are moving when it's cold, and there's not a lot of things for them to eat moving when it's cold. So they're just going to sit there, like I'm doing at the moment, and sit in the sun and go, ooh, and you actually watch them, they'll turn their back, oh, and just enjoy that early morning sun. I'm pretty sure some of our resident birders, are going to be get that in 2 ticks. So very, very cool. So guys, just listening to the Jeandre channel. A whole bunch of new voices down here. A little bit distracting. So we're going to go to a very well-known spot if you're an avid follower of the big cats of the Sabi Sands. It's called 3 in a Row Pan. And I am checking, we're the first people to come here this morning, so I'm looking for tracks. I'm hoping to find some leopard tracks. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we can do a double big cat entendre and pull a leopard or a cheetah out of Cheetah Plains? So we've got some answers, and Aqua, Raisa and Monkey Man say Ama falcon. And it's very, very difficult to tell, actually. The fact that there were only 2, there weren't more, I actually think it's a red-footed falcon. But if we have a look at these 2, I mean, there's the Ama male, and there's the red-footed male. So very, very similar looking. And I just felt it was a bit too dark for an Ama. And also the fact that normally with Ama falcons, you'll have, when you see them perched like that, you can have 15, 20, 30, 100 perched. With a red-footed falcon, you don't normally see as many. It just looked a little bit dark to me. So I would have gone with red-footed falcon there. But an Ama falcon, which is there, you can see very, very similar. So it's very difficult to tell when they're not flying. So when they're flying, you can see that very distinct white underwing. So maybe we'll have to go back a little later and see if they're moving around. And there we go, red-footed falcon, the dark underwing. That's the female red-footed falcon. If we see females, much easier to distinguish those 2 species. The males are near identical. So there's the female Amma falcon. So I personally would have gone with red-footed falcon just from the fact that it was quite dark and the fact that there were only 2 sitting there. And we will definitely have a look. And one of the exciting things is both those particular falcon species like big open areas. So maybe we'll see a few more. And it's not uncommon either to actually have both in the same area. But generally there will always be more Ammas and less red-footed. Okay, we are driving past 3 in a row pan. We've passed the first pan. This is pan number 2. Hello, pan number 2. Isn't this just exciting? It's so new and different. Now, pan number 3 is looking a little bit sparse, a little bit less water in it. And as you can see, if you look carefully around here, there are lots of expired buffalo skeletons like that one. Now, strange enough, there's an interesting story about that particular skull and vertebra and hip bone that's sitting right there. Now, 2 or 3 days ago, they weren't sitting right there. The reason they are right there is because I put them there. So those of you who read the SafariLIVE blog will have seen some beautiful pictures taken by Rebecca of this particular spot, and we maneuvered the buffalo skull to have it next to the water. Now, of course, we upset a few carrion beetles who were still feeding on the sinew and what was left. Now, I was lucky enough when my friends came to Djuma and I was driving them, and Djuma, of course, has traverse on Cheetah Plains, that I actually saw the Birminghams eating this particular buffalo. And it was a female, hello, retired lady. She's very much retired, not going to be grazing the plains of Cheetah anymore. But speaking of the plains of Cheetah, let's go head towards some wide open spaces. Well, a very exciting and good morrow to Jeffrey, who's from the Lone Star State, one of the biggest states in America, Texas. And Jeffrey's wondering if we're going to find any secretary birds while we're on Cheetah Plains. There's a very good chance of finding them, Jeffrey. Probably the highest hyena chance we have. And yet another retired buffalo, thanks to the Birminghams. You know what's even so exciting? No one has driven down this road yet this morning, and that makes me very excited because we might be the first to see a beautiful imprint of a paw. Ooh, what have we here? 2 hyenas, not just one. So, Smiles is wondering, do jackals have a large home range, or can we expect to see them regularly while in this area? Smiles, it's quite an interesting thing because they generally have a very small territory, but it does change due to pressure from larger carnivores and etc. So if we go back to last year, we used to actually have a pair on quarantine that we used to see regularly, and Bryan and I actually were lucky enough to witness it. It happened on our way home after safari, but quarantine, the male leopard, not the open area, happened to kill one of those jackal, and once he killed the one, the other just vanished. So hopefully we will see them quite regularly, but there is a chance that with pressure from other carnivores, they may or may not move off. Now, side-striped jackal, which you saw yesterday with Jeandre here, is quite an interesting one because unlike black-backed jackal, it's far less specific in its diet. It is the epitome of an omnivore, and actually even eats a lot of fruit, including marula fruit and fruit of the brown ivory, fruit of the guarri, and you actually find it eats a lot less meat than a black-backed jackal, where a black-backed jackal is far more focused on eating meat. So of course, one of the most exciting things about Cheetah Plains is in the name, cheetah. And Marcia is wondering, do we track cheetah like we track other cats? We do, Marcia. We follow their footprints. Now, what makes cheetah quite difficult to track is, number one, they're not as prone to walking down roads or big elephant paths and stuff, so they walk often through the bush. And the reason for this is to avoid the other predators like lion, leopard, and hyena, who really like walking down roads. And obviously, cheetah is the bottom of the predator scale in terms of strength and able to defend themselves, so they will always run. The second thing with cheetah is they are far more mobile. They have a much larger home range, and they cover a lot more distance. So it does make them slightly more difficult to track, but in principle, yes, Marcia, we track them exactly the same way as we would track a lion or a leopard. Now, Bryan has never been to Cheetah Plains before, and Bryan, are you ready? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? We're not quite there yet, but this is now moving through towards the start of some open areas, and you can already see it's quite a lot more open here. Now we're on the boundary of Cheetah Plains and Mala Mala at the moment, and we see that hill. As we go over that hill, we're going to arrive in a spectacularly open area, and I'm very excited. As I'm sure James would have explained, there are a few tree species we're going to find here that we might not have found on Djuma. One in particular, which I'm very excited to see, is called the shambok. Pod is the old name, it's now called the long-tailed cassia. And a shambok is a wonderful old, very South African word. A shambok is a form of whip, and in the old days, it is a whip that was constructed out of hippo hide. So hippo have a very thick skin, and it's this rolled hippo skin, and you can literally pretty much take the skin off someone's back, or cut a snake in half if you know how to use it. And it was used by a lot of the pioneers, or the European pioneers in Africa that used to come to these areas. It was commonplace on an ox wagon. And so as you moved off and you wanted your oxen to get moving, you would crack it against the side of your ox wagon. Now, there are lots of different types of shamboks, but generally they were kept as a sort of personal weapon. And a lot of those original European pioneers in this part of the world had very specific and very stylized shamboks that were personal to themselves. Those of you who know a little bit about South African history will have possibly read a book called Jock of the Bushveld by Sir Percy Fitzpatrick. And it's about his dog that he traveled the wilds with. And he had a very, very, very personal shambok. And he actually constructed a handle out of zebra skin for his shambok. And he was a transport rider. So he used to actually ride between the high veld and the low veld, transporting messages. There's not the chance, but the fact that he was a slight rogue. And most of the European pioneers in this part of the world were rogues, involved in maybe not nefarious, but slightly naughty things, including ivory poaching and whatnot. But one must remember, it was a very different era. And people didn't used to live in the low veld. Well, Europeans didn't used to live in the low veld. They would only come down during the winter months when there were no mosquitoes and fewer tsetse flies. So they were very scared of malaria, and that very sort of rugged, roguish crew that used to stay here for the whole year were, well, sort of involved in smuggling, and they used to smuggle stuff through to Mozambique, to what is now Maputo. Back then was called Lorenzo Marques, the capital of then Portuguese East Africa. Now, of course, it is Mozambique. So there's some very interesting stories about that group of specific pioneers who were the only ones who actually used to live in the low velds for the wet season. Aqua says, can we see some umbrella thorn acacia trees? Aqua, you are exploring Cheetah Plains with me, so if I do find some, I will definitely show you. I haven't seen any yet, and I don't recall seeing them. I've only ever been here on Game Drive once before, so I don't recall seeing them the last time I was here, but I was lucky enough the last time I came here with, when I was driving out of Vuyatela Lodge, was actually to look at leopard cubs, Nkanyanini, and her cubs. Bryan, are you ready to be blown away by a vast open space?
I am indeed.
Oh, Bryan is excited. I'm excited. And as we move through, we can actually... My goodness, we can see... Oh, I see a vehicle looking at something, so it is across our southern boundary. Let's hope it's not a cheetah, it is a wildly beast. So wildebeest, wow, look at this, look at this, look at this. Look at this vast open area, and we've got a nice big herd of wildebeest. We're going to try to get a bit closer to them. No, we're not going to get a bit closer to them because I am on the boundary, I think. We don't want to go trespassing on our first trip here. Nice big herd of wildly beasts. I'm just going to pull up my map in case. I know I am okay at the moment, but I just want to make sure I don't meander to the incorrect side of the road. Wow, isn't this absolutely stunning? Okay, we are good. We are on the boundary. We are legal. Let's meander on a bit. So, old Jeff was wondering, where do we see secretary birds? And now this, Jeff, is the type of place we would see them. Now, normally the grass is going to be a bit longer here, but unfortunately, of course, we haven't had much rain this year, so it hasn't happened. Look at this. Isn't this absolutely stunning? Now, the fact that there's a Mala vehicle over there means they might be following on cheetah tracks. Bryan, how lucky are we feeling?
Oh, very lucky.
We're feeling very lucky. I think we should take the boundary all the way to the Kruger Park boundary. But while we do that, and we find anything, we will jump straight across. We also might find ostrich here, which is also exciting. But while we continue along here, let's jump back on board with Jamie and see what she's up to.
Oh, that would be exciting. An ostrich for the first time in a long time. Now, while you've been with Brent exploring Cheetah Plains, I've been looking at this particular track on the side of the road. And this is a baby elephant lying down. That's what this whole, you can actually see the wrinkles in its skin imprinted in the side of this road. And elephants very often will enjoy spending a little bit of time when they do sleep, leaning up against the side of a slope, whether it be a termite mound or a tree. They will actually spend, it makes life easier for them in terms of leaning up against something. It makes it easier to get up. So that's what this track is. Unfortunately, fortunately, it depends on how you look at it, James has just called in that he has tracks for lions, and it sounds like the Djuma Pride crossing into Djuma around Sandy Patch Road. So they've crossed in from our northwestern boundary around Simbambili. The difficulty is that the elephants have walked all over them. But now I've got male leopard tracks. And really, I just don't know where to turn this morning. There are so many tracks to follow. Look at this. This is very fresh. You're going to be able to see that on top of the elephant tracks there. Look at that. Beautiful, perfect tracks. And we can see them. I can actually see them all the way walking up Albury's Road. On top of the elephant tracks, those are crisp, pristine leopard tracks. And I think it's time for us to go and follow them. James is going to follow up on those lions. I'm going to follow up on these leopard tracks. These are fresh, fresh, fresh. This is the leopard that I saw the tracks of yesterday. These are so fresh, I can almost smell the leopard. This leopard's somewhere here. These tracks are...
Go.
Go? You got him in the road?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's close to the right.
Awesome. There we go. There's the leopard. Well done, Jeandre. Tingana. Looks like Tingana. Well done, Jeandre. Looks like Tingana. I can't quite tell. Awesome. This is amazing. What a way to start a morning. So you know how I said the tracks were so fresh I could smell the leopard? Well, there he is. And it looks like Tingana, and he looks much better. Hello, boy. Are you feeling a little bit healthier now? Please don't disappear into this really thick block. What a wonderful surprise. And we had the question earlier about whether or not we had any update on the injured leopard. Here we go. This is him. And he seems okay. Let's just watch how he walks. He's still a little bit stiff. Still walking carefully. And looking, oh, big yawn, looking slightly hungry, but definitely better than when we last saw him. And that incredible, Tingana's amazing in terms of size. He's one of the biggest male leopards here. He's the dominant male leopard in this territory. And he is essentially head and shoulders without neck. That neck is so thick and that dewlap is so prominent. And it makes him all the more powerful. Here you can hear the squirrel that's just spotted him. Well done, Jeandre. Thank you very much for finding him. Lots and lots of you congratulating Jeandre. Awesome spotting work. Just trying to see what this leopard is going to decide to do. He's just kind of stopped. He's not stalking. He's not walking. He's just stopped. I wonder if he's not looking for a place to lie down. Still stiff in the way that he walks. Stations, I've got Madura Ingwe here on Aubrey's Road, very close to the junction of Vuya's main access. He's on the eastern side of the road, slowly moving into the block. Stopping. That's affirmative. Just keep coming up Aubrey's Road. You'll get my visual. He's mobile into the block. Sorry, guys, just calling that sighting in. Ephraim, I can hear just on the road. Copy, you're more than welcome. I'll try and stay with him. There we go. Lying down, that's what he was looking for. He's just gone flat now. All right, let's try and get ourselves a different view. It's a bit of a tricky block to get into. So good to see him not healthy, but certainly better than he was before. Let's just see if we can't get in here. Now, for those of you watching this show and are unfamiliar with the way in which we off-road, just to comfort you a little bit in terms of the decisions that we make and the trees that we drive over, we are very, very careful to drive only on species that are resilient and common and that will bounce back from the passage of our vehicle across them. I'm just trying to make space for Ephraim as well. A bit tricky to try and find a way to see him. After the rain, the bush is so thick. Let's just stop here for the moment. Jeandre, can you get a visual of him from here? You will be able to. Let's just hold on 1 second, just so that Ephraim can come in. And for those of you who've been watching over the last few months, you know that we have been collecting leopard scat in order to determine the paternity of each cub. Obviously, it's very easy to know who the mother is, but determining the father is a little bit more tricky because female leopards will mate with as many possible males as possible. Sorry, just hold on 1 second. Ephraim, have you got visual there? I've got visual. He's very flat, but if you make your way in, you should be able to see him. Just making sure that Ephraim has a chance to see him as well. So over the last few weeks or months, we've been collecting leopard scat. And Aileen was wondering whether or not we will collect scat from the leopard cubs of Karula in order to determine who the father is. And yes, absolutely we will. And it's going to be such a fascinating result to determine. Most likely, I mean, if we look at what we've seen Karula do and who we've seen her associating with, most likely this is the father of those two cubs, but we just do not know. He's the dominant male leopard in this area, but she has been seen mating with a leopard further to the north in Buffelshoek at times, and she might have been mating with other leopards in the area. It's just because Tingana is dominant in the areas that we traverse and within the sort of core part of her territory that we know exactly who, we know that she's been mating with him. I suspect he's the father, but studies that have been recently conducted have indicated that about 50%, between 40 and 50% of cubs are actually not fathered by the dominant male leopard in an area. The same goes for lions, funnily enough. They implement the exact same technique. And whilst you have a coalition like the ones that you saw this morning with Brent, the Birmingham Boys, whilst you have a coalition of dominant males in an area, they are not necessarily the father to every single cub in that area. Even though they might think that they are, they know which females they've mated with, but they're not necessarily responsible for fathering all of the cubs, but they'll still protect them. They'll still protect the area, not necessarily protect them physically, but they will still protect the territory that those cubs are in, even if they are not actually their cubs. Right, let's try and, once Ephraim has repositioned, then I will try and reposition once again so that we can get a different angle. There we go. Oh my goodness, it's almost impossible to get a good view of him in here. Is that not better? How's that, Jeandre? Here we go. I mentioned that this particular male has pretty much a head and shoulders and no neck. Hello, gorgeous. And Cara, watching all the way in Seattle, would like to know why leopards have that flabby neck. Is it a sign of aging? Is it a sign of weight? What exactly is that for? The answer is, it is a sign of age, but it is only as prominent as it is in males. So the dewlap, that flap of skin around the neck, mostly serves a very similar purpose to a lion's mane, protecting the most sensitive areas of that leopard. So a dewlap around the jugular, the arteries around the neck, where they are most sensitive, is a way of competing and ensuring that they are protected from the fights with other males. That's why the males have it and the females do not. That being said, it becomes more and more prominent with age. It's around 6 years, 5, 6 years old that they start to properly develop the dewlap, and only around 6, 7 that you really start to see it. I've seen Karula has developed something of a dewlap, and that is a product of age. So, like all mammals, leopards as they grow older will lose elasticity to their skin, and they will lose subcutaneous fat layers, and as a result, their skin gets that little bit flabby. And Karula has borne many, many cubs in her time, so apart from the dewlap, she's also got, I think she's actually split the muscle wall of her abdomen, which is why we see her with what we've described as a flabby tummy. It's not flab, of course, it's just the muscle structure and her stomach structure has changed. And that's common in a lot of mammals. You see it in hyenas very regularly, where regular or constant pregnancy situations have caused that split in muscle tissue. But Tingana's dewlap, as he hides in this dappled sunlight, is a protective function. so good to see him looking that little bit healthier. He's still resting up though. I mentioned that we will probably be collecting, or we definitely will be collecting, the scat of the cubs. We've also collected Tingana's scat in order to analyze the DNA. And Bryan was wondering a little bit about the process that it goes through. He was wondering, do we have a lab here, or does it get sent away for testing? And the answer to that is it gets sent away. So we don't have a lab on site, and we have to send the scat off to an organization known as Panthera, which is a very, very large big cat research program that is spread across multiple countries around the world. And in particular, they focus on leopard populations in South Africa. And I've worked closely with them in the past. We've done an enormous camera trapping project where I used to work, where we set up 100 camera traps around a 25,000 hectare reserve and identified each and every individual leopard. And the process, the research that they're doing is absolutely vital in terms of the way in which it contributes to the conservation of these beautiful cats. And it's got a lot to do with, first of all, nobody actually knows how many leopards there are in the Lowveld, so the area that we're in Limpopo province or Mpumalanga province, which is where we are in South Africa, or indeed in South Africa. And some of their research actually really goes deep into the heart of determining just how many leopards there really are, because nobody actually knows. So no, whilst we don't test them on site, we do send them through to Panthera so that they can analyze the DNA. And it'll be so interesting to get those results. And I mean, Tingana is a perfect example of a leopard that, whilst we have a sort of a rough idea as to where he came from, we don't know exactly his paternity and exactly how far he has dispersed. Because when a male grows older, they will actually move outside of their area, and that's known as dispersal. Obviously, they need to go and find some fresh genetics in order to reproduce. And that is what a male leopard does. See, flat there, or is he? Still, no, he's still looking up. And a male leopard some male leopards have been recorded as dispersing up to 600 kilometers, so 400 odd miles in distance, in search of fresh genetics. I just need to hop onto the Game Drive channel and manage the sighting in order to get all the different guests from around the various neighboring lodges in. While I do that, let's find out how Cheetah Plains is going.
Sorry guys, we're just trying to find you a bird. Bryan, just come out a bit. Oh. No. Oh, it's gone off. So there was a ground scraper thrush that has escaped us. You might have just seen a brief movement of it disappearing into the bush. So basically what Bryan and I are doing at the moment is we're putting the vehicle into cruise and we're just enjoying the early morning light and a new space. We are actually looking for things as well at the same time. I'm checking for any tracks. Bryan and I have decided we're going to drive every road on Cheetah Plains this sunrise safari. And you're probably going to find all of us going to do that till the novelty wears off slightly. But I am hoping to find a leopard track that we can follow. Well, we have a question from Joey, which is a very apt name for an Australian, since the name for a baby kangaroo is also a Joey. So Joey wants to know, since we are close to the Sand River, is there a better chance of seeing baboons? So Joey, we're not actually that close to the Sand River at all. We're just a little bit closer than we are on Djuma. It's still probably about 5 kilometers from the Cheetah Plains boundary. And there's always a chance of seeing baboons. I don't know whether it's a better chance than seeing them on Djuma. I think it's probably it's quite similar, a chance. We have a flock of them. A bit difficult to see, but I'm pretty sure they're red-faced mouse birds. Now, they have that name because of their long tail. So they have a long rodent-like tail, and they're considered a pest in a lot of places, especially if you're a fruit farmer. They have been known to destroy the odd fruit tree or three. And what they're doing at the moment, and the reason they're in that specific tree they're in, if we go down a little bit, I think you can see some of them feeding. There, look, zoom there, Brian, you can see that rodent-like tail hanging there. And they're feeding off the fruit of the guarri bush. And if they're feeding there, it means the guarri bush is ripe. And I'm a mite bit peckish. Let's go have a look. Ooh, I see some ripe guarri bush, guarri berries. Brian, are you hungry?
I could eat some berries.
Well, Brian could eat some berries. I could definitely do with some berries in my life. Oh, I forgot. We have a slight problem. The door is winning. We are not. So we cannot open the door at the moment. I'm going to have to, I will try to take it apart after the sunrise safari. So at the moment, it's like one of those very fancy convertibles that you never open the door. So we are in a convertible, but I thought that was quite an elegant dismount, but I think maybe an 8 out of 10 for the dismount. Now, ooh, they're so ripe. I'm going to show you now. Now, the one thing when guarri berries are really ripe, you got to be quite careful when you pick them, because you sometimes just get the skin off. Be very careful now. And if they're very ripe, you just shake the tree and they fall off. So we're going to have, I'll show you some different versions, and it's very interesting. I find it absolutely fascinating how, if we have a look, can we see that one, Brian? The different berries ripen at a different time. So giving the tree a chance to be an extended sort of a period where they're able to fruit. So, it's very, very rarely that one. Oh, I've lost it. Okay, let me. So there is a green berry. Here's a, what color would you say that is, Brian? Maroon berry. There is a slightly darker berry, and we go all the way to the very ripe berry. Now, you can find all of those berries on the exact same little branchlet. So it's extending its fruiting period so that not all its fruit becomes ripe at one time. So it can extend its fruiting period, so it will get fed on by lots of different animals, birds, monkeys, jackal will even eat this, side-striped jackal in particular. There we go, Brian. There's a ripe berry for Brian.
Thank you.
And a ripe berry for Brent. So sweet. I keep forgetting the door doesn't work anymore. Great. There we go. Just need to find my ears. There's my ears. Very sweet. Now, if you don't like someone, you give them one of these berries, one of these two. Because when they're really ripe, they're really sweet and tasty. But if you give someone one of these, and I will, only for you, I will taste one of them. Now, I'm going to mix them up. I'm going to give one to Bryan as well. Bryan doesn't look so excited about this berry. I'll give him the more ripe one.
Thank you.
But if you take one that's not quite ripe, it's very, very tanniny. It literally completely dries your mouth. Now, the reason Bryan's face is as bad as mine, and he had one that was more ripe than this one. My mouth is completely dry from this. Now, the reason the bush does this is to actually stop things feeding off the berries before they're ripe. So, of course, the seed inside hasn't quite developed to the same degree. Oh dear. I think I can reach. We need a properly ripe one again. Since the door's not working, I'm just going to climb across the car. That's not quite ripe. We want a nice black one. Maybe just take a whole branch. There we go. And it also gives me a snack to keep feeding on. So the reason the bush does this is to, as soon as an animal sort of bites, and it's more specifically for birds because birds can see color, and primates, it sort of makes it taste unpleasant to try focus the animals on these really ripe berries like that one there. And you can see they almost, you don't even have to pick them, they just sort of fall off the branch. Now, so nice. After the tannins of the last one. Now if we open it up, now we look at that, and we look at that. Isn't that incredible? So there's more flesh on the completely ripe ones, and if we ever had to open up this one, which I'm definitely not going to do because then I won't be able to speak, my mouth will be so dry. And you can see it hasn't quite developed to the same degree yet. Now we're going to go even further into the guarri berry, and we peel off that, and you can see it splits, but there hasn't been full development of the sort of reproductive parts of the berry. So that, if it falls on the ground or is eaten, is not going to be able to be fed. Now, of course, not going to germinate. And there we go. We take the skin off the next one, the ripe one. Oh, it's quite a process. And while I'm actually peeling off that sort of layer, now that layer, to a degree, protects it from the stomach acids of animals. And you see, I cannot split that berry, even if I push on it really hard, whereas that fell apart. It hasn't fully formed. So now, this seed now is ready for germination. So once it gets into the ground, and specifically if something like a bird is going to deposit it along the way, now the inside is completely prepared to spring to life, whereas you can see this one is not, and the seed immediately splits when I open it up, and this one I can't split for love or money. There we go. So fascinating little bush, the guarri bush. Now, of course, if any of you have ever been to Africa, every guide in the world will tell you the toothbrush story. I personally try to avoid toothbrushes. Not all the time, but in terms of the bush. So it can make a toothbrush. Oh, there's a ripe one that just fell off. Now, for me, the more fascinating thing is the cultural use of the guarri bush. Yum. It's got two very important... Sorry, Bryan, I'm forgetting you there. Would you like another berry?
Please.
Am I going to give you one that's going to make your mouth dry, or am I actually going to give you one that tastes nice? I'll give you one that tastes nice. So, So we're just going to do this quickly. Now, this is obviously not how you would normally do it, but I don't want to chop down the whole tree. So water divining is obviously quite an important thing, especially in areas like this that are quite arid. And the Latin name, or scientific name for the gori bush, is Euclea divinorum. And if you go chop a big branch of the gori, and you walk around, and I don't know how, I sort of understand slightly in principle, but it actually works. If you go take a big branch of gori, and water is attracted to water always, that's why water runs downhill, etc. But if you take a big branch of the gori and you walk over an area, and you get over underground water, it's very slight, but it pulls. You can't even help your hands, but it pulls down. And I personally think it's because the gori actually has a very moist tree, so it has a lot of moisture in it. And it always grows where there's underground water. And as I said, it's a bit of hocus pocus, and I can't actually logically give you an explanation but why it works, but it does. And I've actually used a gori bush to sink boreholes before in areas in very, very dry areas in northern Botswana. So you get a forked stick and you walk around, and when you get over underground water, it's sort of just, it's the ever so slight little bend. And if I was a superstitious chap, which I'm not, moving on from the divining because it's hocus pocus and I can't explain why it works, but it just works. If I was a superstitious chap and I believed a bad witch doctor had cursed me, and one of the more common curses is to get someone cursed to be killed by lightning. But if I was a prudent chap and I consulted my own witch doctor, I would walk around with a gori branch in my pocket, in my bag, and I'd have multiple gori branches in my house. Now I'd say that if someone is cursed to be struck by lightning, as long as you have a gori branch with you, you'll be safe. For some reason, the gori branches keep lightning away. And again, I have no idea why, but it is what it is. So if you are worried about lightning, get hold of us. We'll send you a gori branch and you should be fine. But anyway, let's move on, exploring. Now, I'm going to look for that very specific tree species that we don't really see on Djuma. I can't remember seeing one on Djuma, but hopefully I have seen one on Cheetah Plains. Now, of course, you've all heard quite a lot about the antenna. So I think for one time and one time only, let's go show you the antenna. And apparently James has already beaten me to showing you the antenna, but I'm going there for a different reason. I'm going there to show you a tree that occurs near the antenna. Oh, yum, 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 yum. Any more gori for you, Bryan?
Oh, yes, please.
Oh, here we go. Yep, hyenas. So we've been chatting about what eats the gori bush, and Susie is saying, well, if a jackal eats the gori bush, how does it know the difference between the ripe berries and the non-ripe berries? Does it see or smell the difference? I think it smells the difference. Because jackals are... Oh, hello. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? Little male steenbok. This is really good steenbok territory, so he's holding the prime territory on the edge of the plain. So he's got both the wonderful short grasses to feed on, as well as having some thickets to hide in. Now he's a particularly relaxed little male. Oh, look at this. Look at him digging. And he's dug and turned over the earth to urinate on. So his scent will stay longer on turned up earth than if he had just peed straight on the ground. Now, if he defecates as well, we're going to go see something we speak about a lot, but very seldom see. So it's not often I say this, but please, Mr. Steenbok, have a poo, so we can watch you bury it. Because they live in such small little territories of no more than sort of 4 acres, that they bury their dung to try to keep their presence in that area down to a minimum. There we go. This is a bit weird. But no, there we go. Watch, he's going to bury it now. And you know how hard it is to find Steenbok dung. And when you do tracking evaluations and stuff like that, it's one of their favorite things to show you where a Steenbok has buried. So it's one of the few antelopes that does that. And it's because they have such a confined and small little territory that they do that. Thank you, Mr. Steenbok. You've been incredibly obliging this morning. Now, you often only see a single Steenbok, although they're a monogamous pair, so you probably find the females not too far off. Absolutely stunning. Not a bush in the way. So we're going to continue exploring our new Traverse area. While we do that, Jamie is still sitting with that beautiful male leopard, Tingana.
Still sitting with Tingana, who hasn't been up to all that much. He looked as though he'd heard something further into the north of this block. You can see his head's up. Ooh. His ears are out and he's listening intently. Not really paying all that much attention to it, though. He's listened, he's scouted about a little bit, but mostly he's just lying up and resting. And in grass like this, it is such a clear demonstration of how well a leopard camouflage works. While you were with Brent, Jeandre and I were just discussing how many times we have driven past a leopard in this kind of position, and he is not more than 40 meters from the road. I can still see the road from where, oh, flat. Sleepy, tired cat. And he's not more than 40 meters, which is about, what is that? That's about 120 odd feet. There's the road there. But at the angle that he's at and the position that he's in, you absolutely could well have driven. If he hadn't walked on the road and left his tracks, if we'd been 1 minute behind him, there's a chance that we wouldn't have seen him. We probably would have tracked him in here, I think is most likely. But look at that, he's all but disappeared. Just the faintest outline of some spots hidden in the grass blades. And Sandy, you were wondering, while we look at Tingana lying down like this, you were wondering whether or not a leopard lying in the grass will ever have to worry about snakes. And the answer is generally not, no. So a snake will not approach the leopard, and the leopard will not lie down on the snake. It's very unusual for any of the big cats to get bitten by snakes. It does happen, but it's not a typical situation. You good there, Tax? Do you want me to move? Let me go forward a bit. We're just going to reposition for Tax so he can make his way out. Tingana's head's up again. I think the only way we're going to be able to make space for Taxon is actually if we pull out of this sighting and let him come through. It'll be 2 seconds. 2 seconds, and then we'll be back again. just need to make room. You're pulling out. Here we go. We'll just make some room for him. Maneuverability is relatively limited in there. Gives us a nice opportunity to just look for whatever it was he heard. I've been trying to contact James, and I think that James might actually be out on foot somewhere in the block very close here, which is why I've been trying to contact him, actually, is to just see if these lions are not walking in Tingana's direction. Now, Tingana, although he's injured, animals' adrenaline functions very differently. Cheers, guys. An animal's adrenaline, once it does kick in, means that although he's limping and he's sore and he's sensitive and walking is a little bit tough at the moment, he would still be perfectly capable of outrunning and escaping a lion or a hyena. I know that a lot of you were very concerned when we've seen him in this condition about whether or not he would be capable of escaping something like a hyena or a lion coming through. And the answer is absolutely he would. Oh, this block requires a little bit of maneuvering in order to get you the best view. I think we're going to have to do this. Oh, I don't want to hit Jeandre with that stick. There we go. Every now and again, we accidentally smack the cameraman with sticks just in that exact way. Just because sometimes if you catch a stick in the wrong side or the wrong angle, there's a chance it might knock them. We're definitely not going to go through that tree, but we can sneak our way in here. How's that, Jeandre? I think that might be my limit here. There we go. Hello, boy. So as I was saying, that adrenaline spike that might come from being chased by a leopard or another leopard or a lion or a hyena would mean that Tingana would be perfectly capable of taking care of himself. It's been an interesting experience tracking him over the last few days. He's gone from, he's basically done a big circle, but for a male leopard of his size and his dominance level, he hasn't covered all that much ground, which is to be expected. He doesn't want to move too far or too much. He's just giving himself time to recover. And for that brief moment that we saw him walking, he doesn't look as though he has the fullest belly. So I don't think he's eaten since that Dacre kill. I think if he has eaten, which I think is unlikely, it was probably something like a small warthog. I don't think he's eaten, though. I think he's a little bit hungry still. And again, that spike of adrenaline applies to hunting situations as well. So even though he is slightly the worse for the wear, when it comes down to hunting and the chase, I think that you'd probably find he moves like a totally uninjured, healthy leopard. He's lying in this thick stand of a grass known as panicum grass. It's buffalo grass, and it's one of the best quality grazing grasses out here. And it's something that cattle farmers regularly plant, or even game breeders. So I'm talking farmers out there who breed animals like sable and roan. They will often farm fields of this particular type of grass because it is, first of all, very highly palatable. Second of all, it's got quite a large the big thick grass stems, which in this case have provided perfect cover for Tingana. He's hiding behind, or sort of lying in the grass, hiding behind a black monkey thorn. And that combination makes him next to invisible unless you know where he is. His head's still up and his ears are twitching, which means that he has thought, he is still thinking about moving about. It's still nice and cool, although it has warmed up from our initial starting temperature. It's still cool enough for him to be moving. And you might even find that if something wanders along here, he would still be absolutely willing to hunt, given his empty belly. Now, Debbie, you were wondering, how long could he go without, or how long can a leopard actually go without eating? It's a difficult one. The answer is quite a long time. I mean, they usually eat every sort of 3 to 4 days. And depending on the condition of the leopard and the amount that they need to move and what kind of energy output they are utilizing, they could probably go up to 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks without food. They would be looking very thin, they would be very weak, and their condition would deteriorate. But that's probably I would guess at, and it is a guess, I would guess at about 3 weeks. How long can a person go without food? A person can go, depending on one's size, you can go for you can go for a considerable period of time without eating, as long as you have water, as long as you stay hydrated and get enough sleep. And I think that you'll probably find that the same will apply to leopards, and especially a leopard of Tingana's size. He's quite a big, bulky boy. He's got a lot of reserves to draw on. Shame. He just looks so utterly exhausted. Did Tundi tire you out, boy? The last time we saw Tingana, or last time I saw Tingana, was when he was still mating with Tundi, albeit very reluctantly. And he was injured at that point. Sam saw him the next day after Tundi had moved off, in exactly the same place, which is relatively unusual for a leopard without a kill, especially a dominant male that will cover miles and miles during the day and mostly during the night to mark his territory and to call. And Tingana's been very much under the radar at the moment. He's been keeping very quiet for a leopard that has basically circled our camp over the last 2 days. He definitely doesn't want to draw attention to himself. The injury is on his back right leg, and I can't see it from this angle. Oh, maybe he's going to make it easier for us. Yeah, here we go, sort of. Thanks, boy. That's sort of what I was aiming for. There's a couple of injuries around his hindquarters. That, to me, was the most serious looking. You can barely see it behind the grass. It's a puncture wound, but it's a puncture wound that falls right in the knee joint. And of course, bear in mind that a cat's knees, a big cat, small cat, any kind of cat, their knee joint is much higher than you realize, much higher than you expect it to be. That's because they don't walk flat on their feet like we do. Their metatarsals, or metacarpals, depending if it's front or back, are much more extended, giving them what's known as a digitigrade foot posture. We have one spotted cat here, and Brent's been exploring Cheetah Plains. Let us find out what he has found for you.
Cheetah! Cheetah! Cheetah on Cheetah Plains! Unfortunately, they are two male cheetah lying atop a termite mound. Sorry guys, the antenna fell down. We apologize for the gremlins. They should be a bit better now. Look at that. Look at that. It's a cheetah. Isn't this exciting? Lion, cheetah, and leopard. Now, we've been talking about how excited we are to see cheetah, and these two males frequently utilize the area of Cheetah Plains, hence the name, Cheetah Plains. So very exciting, and I'm hoping they get up and move towards us. You've been looking at Tingana, now you can see the very different head shape of a cheetah as opposed to a leopard. As you can see, they are a little bit far from coming to us yet. So all you guys send brainwaves to those cheetah and tell them to walk north. Oh, yawn. That means you should walk. You're tired of being on that termite mound? Come to us. James Richard is very excited, as I'm sure you all are, that we have cheetah. Isn't this wonderful? So Angie is wondering whether the cheetah is a tree climber. They do climb trees occasionally. I'm just going to try and move us again so we're in a bit of a better spot. Of course, as I said, it's a little bit difficult as they are... How's that, Bryan? Let's see. Look at that. So Angie, sorry, they do climb trees. They do climb trees quite regularly. Of course, not to the same degree as a leopard. So they normally use fallen down trees or very easy trees to climb. Because you must remember, a cheetah's claws are semi-retractable. So they're not able, and so that means they use them for stability when they're running. So they're slightly blunted in comparison to sort of a leopard's or a lion's. But they are not really tree climbers, but tree walkers is a better thing. So trees that have fallen down or lying on their side, been pushed down by elephants, the cheetah will utilize, and they like defecating on high places. So termite mounds and fallen trees is a favorite spot for male cheetah to scent mark. And their dung is a very important method for scent marking. Now, cheetah, one of the most fascinating things for me about cheetah is that they are the only one of the big cats that needs a male dominant ratio for breeding. So what I mean by that is that if we look, there will be one male leopard who will have multiple females. So there's always more females than males. With cheetah, females need more males than females. Oh, look at that, he's getting up. Having a sniff. Come north, come north, come north. Take the Great North Road, Mr. Cheetah. No, 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 no. Bad car. Bad car. Good car. Good car. Yay, no car. So it looks like they're quite full. And so, as I was saying before that cheetah rudely interrupted me by standing up, is that, actually, let's try a bit better, is that female cheetah will often turn down multiple males, up to 3 or 4, before they mate. So it's the only animal. Oh, look at that. Look how streamlined and sleek it is. Built for speed. So if you hear a little spray, it's just me putting some sun cream on. Aqua's wondering whether these cheetah are habituated. As you could see from our neighbors to the south, very habituated. Those vehicles were very close to the cheetah. Strange enough, this is the same two male cheetah that very occasionally come onto Djuma, and that Bryan and I were lucky enough to see being chased by the quarantine male leopard. We've seen them a few times, not very often, but it looks like they're going to listen. So obviously all your positive thoughts that you were pumping into the cheetah's brain has told it should come towards us. Now let's hope it does. Oh no, doesn't get slightly confused and go the wrong way. We want them to come north, not south. So if any of you are sending southerly vibes, it's a good time to send northerly vibes. Please don't go south, or east, or west. Let's just go north, Mr. Cheetah. At the moment, they are going west. Let's try and get another view. Can you see, Bryan? Let's try from... Ooh, I think they're going to come towards us. Got them there, Bryan? So, Natasha in Ontario is wondering, no, Miss Cheetah, that's the wrong way. If these two cheetah have names, they don't, as far as I know. It's just that the coalition who has gone behind some combretums. Let's just move a bit further forward. See if there's another gap for us. I'm going to walk into that gap there, Bob. Unfortunately, they are moving away from us. We will try to stay as long as possible, but it does look it's going slightly southwest. And unfortunately, we are unable to go further in there. And congratulations to Liz in Wisconsin. Her first cheetah sighting. Yay! High five. There we go. The killer bees are back. Cheetah, lions, you know, that's how we roll. But very exciting. And there is a strong possibility that those cheetah are going to move deeper into the Cheetah Plains. We are going to hang around this area, even though we don't have a visual at the moment. I'm going to stay here just in case they start moving to the north. Now, we haven't seen any cheetah tracks. So male cheetah are great patrollers. Like male lions, they constantly march and scent mark. So there were no tracks on the sort of eastern side of Cheetah Plains, so there is a very strong possibility they are going to come here unless they've smelt a female. Let's try it back a bit. So I'm trying to spot them now. While we try to spot them, Christopher. Oh, sorry, Christopher. I have an itchy nose. I think I'm about to sneeze. Oh yeah, it's gone. Christopher is wondering how big of an animal can a cheetah take down on the hunt. So I have seen them take adult female kudu, but generally their preferred prey would be a sort of impala at the large range, Steenbok, duiker. But two males can take down up to an adult wildebeest. It's unusual, but not impossible. Itchy nose. Unfortunately, I don't think there's a view for us at the moment. Let's just maybe try a different angle. You see anything, Bryan? Just try through that gap there. I think I saw a flick of a tail. No. It is starting to get quite warm, so they might rest up there. Now, cheetah are a crepuscular mammal, which means they are most active at dusk and dawn. So they might rest up right here. Can you see anything there, Bryan? They're so tantalizingly close. So as I was saying, Christopher, the largest male, and it's only going to be male cheetah who do this, will take down is probably a wildebeest, is the biggest prey species. And that's because there are two of them, and they do hunt in tandem, so they do cooperatively hunt. Now, the very interesting thing about cheetah coalitions, as opposed to male lion coalitions, for example. Sorry, we're having a bit of breakup with the audio. Bryan's just trying to fix it. Okay, it's fixed. So we're gonna jump across to Jamie shortly, because we don't have an actual visual of these cats at the moment, but I'm first going to tell you something absolutely fascinating about coalitions. So the collective noun for cheetah, the original old one, is a coalition of cheetah. So cheetah coalitions are always related. They are direct littermates. They are brothers. And unlike a male lion that will often join up with other lions that are not directly related, and there's a very strict dominance in that coalition. So only one male of that coalition will mate. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but as a general rule, only the one male will mate. And the others are happy defending and fighting and protecting this territory, because evolutionary-wise, their genetic code, or a version of their genetic code, is being passed on by their direct 100% brother. So they're directly related, even though only one of a coalition will mate. And we, of course, haven't spent enough time with these guys to figure out who's the dominant one, but hopefully we will. So while we wait and sit with our fingers crossed and keep sending those brain waves to the cheetah to come north, because I'm doing it right now. Bryan's doing it as well. He doesn't know he's doing it, but he is. And we're going to hope for them to come north, and while we wait for them to come north, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
How awesome is that? Our three biggest cats in the space of about 2 hours this morning, less than 2 hours, about an hour and a half, that we've seen all of the big cats that you could possibly see if you were out on safari in the African bushveld. One of whom is clearly very much asleep. And I'm probably going to leave him to his nap at some point. We'll stick with him for a little bit longer, and then we will move on and see what else we can find. Isn't that just so idyllic looking? So comfortable, that bright green grass that looks soft, cozy, sheltered in the shade. There's not bright sunlight shining on him. It just looks like the perfect napping spot for a leopard and for any other animal that might come through here. One thing I can tell you is that the elephants have been particularly busy in this block. That black monkey thorn that he's hiding behind has been pushed over double. And in my current trapped state between the various trees, I've had a good time checking out the different trees in this area. While Tingana sleeps peacefully, he never ever is completely unalert. And the reason behind that is that he cannot afford to be. Life out here can be incredibly tough, and especially whilst injured. And Aaron, you wanted to know if a lion would attack and kill a leopard like this, and the answer is yes. even though they are both cat species, they are different species, and they are in direct competition with each other for resources. Not so much for, obviously, definitely not for mating opportunities, but they are in competition for resources. And essentially all predators will aim to remove that competition where they can. And lions, as the dominant predator of this area, have things the easiest. So a lion could and would, if they could get to him, attack and kill a leopard. Usually they don't eat them, because it's not about food. It is about competition. It's about removing competition for yourself and for your offspring. And the cheetah that you were with Brent, they fall right at the bottom of that predator hierarchy. And everything, or a cheetah is scared of pretty much everything out here, from leopards to lions to hyenas to wild dogs. A lion, of course, sits on the top of that hierarchy, and they are capable of catching and killing leopards, but they generally don't, and that's just because they're slow. They're slower than a leopard and they're less agile. So although lions can climb trees, leopards can climb trees better than lions. And they're certainly, obviously, a hyena can't climb a tree, so all a leopard has to do is shoot up. So let's say, for example, a lion came wandering through here. Oh, and by the way, on that subject, the Nkuhumas have crossed into Manyeleti. So what they did was they cut the little corner of Djuma, went past Sydney's Dam on Buffelshoek and to the northern property. So they're 2 properties to the north of us at the moment. That's where they disappeared off. James said he thinks he saw a male lion's tracks with them as well. That would be very interesting, because it is unlikely that it's Junior. It's most likely to be one of the Birmingham Boys, but still a break in tradition for both the way that the Birmingham Boys have behaved over the last few weeks, as well as the Nkuhumas. But back to the situation of competition. Let's say a lion. Let's say the Nkuhumas came wandering through that block. All that Tingana would have to do is shoot up either the apple leaf or the nearby marula. There's the apple leaf there, sticking up this crown on top. And he could launch himself up into it and all the way across the thinner branches on the top and hide away from them. And a lion would have a very hard time trying to follow him up there. Our spotted cat is very much asleep. I think I'm going to move on and find other things. While I do that, Brent is still with a wonderful cat species that we hardly ever see.
So they've moved off the termite mound into the shade of a baby leadwood, and you can just see their heads sitting there. Now cheetah lie in a very unique way, with their heads up quite often, and when you're driving through areas with slightly long grass, they sometimes resemble piles of elephant dung. And of course, elephant dung doesn't have a flicking tail. So I'm really, really hoping that these guys decide to head our way. And you can see, compared to a leopard or lion, how big a cheetah's tail is. It flicks up and down. So a cheetah's tail is very large and very flat, and acts as a rudder when they start chasing things. Now, a cheetah can go from a 0 to nearly 100 kilometers an hour in about 60 miles an hour, 96 kilometers an hour. It can go from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3 seconds. And that is absolutely incredible. It has a top speed of around 75 miles per hour. And Natasha was wondering how fast cheetah can go. So their top speed is around between 110 and 120 kilometers an hour. So top end in miles is about 75 miles per hour. Now, they can keep that up for not very long, at maximum about 400 or 500 meters. About 1,500 feet is what they can do it for. And of course, that's why they need, in a lot of cases, slightly more open area. Now, they're very delicately built. Now, I mean, they're much taller than a leopard, but they're very, very delicately built. So they're designed for speed rather than strength. So any slight injury to a cheetah could constitute its downfall. It is the only member of the felid or cat family that has semi-retractable claws, and that is a specific design to speed. Their feet are also very, very big for an animal of their size, and of course they need that for grip, for that incredible acceleration they have. So Clayton is wondering if it's true that cheetah are approaching the endangered species list, and are there any efforts to help them recover? Now, Clayton, they're not approaching, they are very much firmly on the endangered species list, and it's a very interesting one, cheetah, because they are, in a lot of ways, on the endangered list, one of the few animals that's not there because of humans. They've become, from an evolutionary point of view, so specialized that cheetah probably are going to be one of those failed arms of the evolutionary tree. Now, there's an incredible very low genetic difference between these cheetah here and the ones sitting in the Serengeti, the ones in Botswana. So about 10,000 years ago, they hit a genetic bottleneck, and they can actually genetically work out that there were less than 100 cheetah left in the whole of Africa, in the whole of the world, sorry. And they managed to come back from there. So you can basically, they've done quite a lot of research on this in terms of saving the cheetah, and you can do a skin graft between two unrelated cheetah, and it immediately takes. There's so little genetic variability between them. They also have an incredibly low sperm count, so they don't actually get pregnant that often, and the fact that the female needs to go through 4 or 5 males before they will mate. It is a sort of bad design. It's not something that is likely to continue through millennia with or without human help. So it is amazing, and of course we are very involved in this, and the Endangered Wildlife Trust puts a lot of money and effort into the saving of cheetah. We are actually sitting in the... Oh, head up. What have you spotted? Have they spotted an impala or a steenbok? So cheetah prefer small to medium-sized antelope, and Maurice is wondering, do we have any gazelle species on Cheetah Plains? We don't. The only gazelle species in southern Africa is the springbok, which is confined to the sort of more arid desert areas, and Karoo. So we don't have any gazelles. A cheetah's favorite prey is very similar to a leopard. It's an impala. And they also feed off duiker, steenbok. They're small to medium size, and I said top of the range for 2 male cheetah like this could be a wildebeest, a female, probably not a male, too big. Now, cheetah, strangely enough, have an absolute love for ostrich, and I've seen them actually kill quite a few ostriches over the years. Oh, sitting up. Please don't spot something down there. Rather spot something towards us. So cheetah is one of the big cats that also occur outside of Africa, and they used to occur in India even, Unfortunately, they have been extinct there for a while, but there's still a remnant population in Iran, of all places. Isn't that incredible? Now, the largest meta-population of cheetah is in the Greater Kruger National Park. Oh, they're up and on the move, both of them. What have they spotted? Now, they're not showing classic cheetah. Oh, no, now they are. As I say that, they prove me wrong. They're showing classic signs that they've spotted a potential prey species. Unfortunately, they are not moving in the right direction for us. Come north, come north, come north. Okay, we might get a nice view here shortly, Bryan. I just want to try and get us into a gap. Tell me if you get a gap, because you're a bit higher than me. You see anything? Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get another sighting of them, please. Okay, I think this is going to be our best bet if we just stand by here. Oh, unfortunately the bush is getting a bit thick. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit further forward. Let's cross fingers that whatever they have spotted and are moving towards, they chase towards us. See anything, I'm afraid. Susan was wondering, are they ambush predators or how does their hunting strategy work? So Susan, they will stalk to a degree, but they rely on that incredible speed mostly. So they, unlike a leopard, which will only really go at about 10 meters, 5 meters preferably, they'll start running sometimes over 100 meters away, and they're relying on that incredible speed they have to manage to catch their prey. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to spot where they're going. Maybe we just go backwards a little bit again. So I'm going to be doing a bit of toing and froing, just trying to find a gap through the trees. Unfortunately, it does look like they're about to move south, further away from us, but that doesn't mean they might change their mind during the day and come back north. They might have been slightly distracted by a potential prey species. See anything yet, Bryan? I'm concentrating on reversing at the moment. Forward, back? Oh, they're coming back. Say when? There we go. To the right, to the right. There. Look at that. Beautiful. Yes, they're coming back the right way. Sorry guys, just need to be on the Game Drive channel for a second. Mike, were you looking for me? Negative, Mike. Come west. I think I hear your vehicle. So from Nkombe shortcut, come west to, I think it's 300 Pan Road junction with double M. They've just got mobile, but they're sort of moving east-west at the moment. Copy. Oh. Okay. Let's try again. It seems like they've gone back to that termite mound we first spotted them on. You see them? Okay, tell me where, Bebop. Forward, back. Forward. Okay, Brian's telling me they're just in front of one of those vehicles. I'm going to try and get us into position now. They're so tantalizingly close. Oh, there they are. Okay. We can just see the tail flicking in front of that game drive vehicle. Bugsy is wondering where the cheetah are, just outside of our Travis area, and obviously they're in Mala Mala, as you can see, the Mala Mala vehicle behind those cheetah. And we are hoping they are going to come towards us at some point. So guys, I think we're going to wait here to see if they move, but while we wait, wonder what Jamie's up to. We're going to have one last look at these gorgeous cheetah, and there we go, we can't see them anymore. Hello, Mr. Mala Mala. Yes, it's a camera that was looking at you. You don't need to stare at it. And we're going to jump across to Jamie, see what she's up to. Hopefully these cheetah come north shortly.
We have some sad and somewhat tragic news as we limp slowly home. Wendy's clutch. There is no clutch. There's nothing. We are so lucky that we were in gear and we were not, as Jeandre pointed out, that we were not in reverse gear, because we would have had to limp backwards in reverse all the way home. As it was, we were in second gear, low range, which means gentle, slow Sunday morning cruise through the bush. Although if we'd been in reverse gear, Jeandre, we would have got back home faster, because it would have been a more straight line. I can't turn around. I can't risk stalling. Jeandre, being the incredible stoic that he is, bearing in mind that he has an incredibly sore foot after a minor jacking incident, and has been limping on crutches for the last few days. He's only just managed to get off crutches, and poor Jeandre had to try and push start the vehicle because it keeps stalling because it's trying to start it without pushing the clutch in. So all in all, Wendy's doing really well. Wendy's doing fantastically. Absolutely nothing wrong with her. And if we see any animals, you will just have to glance at them as they pass us by, because I can't stop. Slowly limping our way back. Now, it's taken me from when you first went back across to Brent and those cheetah to get to, oh my word, we're only here. The Gallagher shortcut, or the shortcut of Gallagher shortcut, because sometimes naming roads is a tricky thing. But yes, here is Gallagher shortcut, or the shortcut off Gallagher. And I cannot believe we're only just passing that now. But we'll take the opportunity to have a look at the various bush willows and the beautiful green of the Sunday morning. It's actually quite peaceful, isn't it, Jeandre?
Yes, beautiful.
There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can stop for. I really hope there isn't an elephant in the road, because if there is absolutely nothing we can do about it. We'll just have to switch off and be stuck. And as we limp our way home, having, it has to be admitted, having had a spectacular morning with Tingana and on Brent's side, the lions and a cheetah, Clayton was wondering how often we see the small wildcats, so the African wildcats in South Africa. Clayton, I've never seen one here yet. They are relatively secretive. They're relatively unusual to see. That being said, it depends on the area that you're in and the number of apex predators. So the reserves that I've worked at in the past or spent a little bit of time on in the past, one in particular didn't have lions or spotted hyenas, had leopards and cheetah because it's almost impossible to fence them. And I saw African wildcats almost every night, perfectly relaxed. I also worked on a reserve where they had an African wildcat rescue program, that the wildcats were released from, not captivity, they were rescued as kittens and then raised and then released into the wild, but still returned back to be fed every now and again. And since we are here, what do you think, Jeandre? Do you think we can drive plus zoom in on a picture of a wildcat?
Living dangerously.
Living dangerously. That's okay, I can't use the index. Whoopsie. Whoopsie daisy. That's a lion, that's not a wildcat, although it is a wildcat. That's a caracal. There we go. So an African wildcat looks much like an African domestic or a domestic cat. And in fact, that is where our domestic cats share an ancestry. That is where our domestic cats came from. An animal that was worshipped by the Egyptians. And now, funnily enough, probably the biggest threat to the African wildcat is domestic cats, because they are close enough in terms of genetics that they can interbreed. And that means that stray cats in an area will breed out the natural wild occurring population of wildcats, which is why there are huge programs. There's Hyena Den, right? Sorry, Jeandre. Oh, Judy. Judy H has said it would be hugely ironic if wild dogs came sprinting up across the road. If that happens, I don't even want to talk about it. We're going to pretend not to see them. Jeandre, you're not allowed to point them out. We're going to pretend that if that happens, we are going to pretend it hasn't happened. I'm going to keep driving. I'm going to look up into the sky and just ignore it, because that will be all I can do. I suppose, you know what, at least we're in low range. We could try and follow them. Probably isn't going to work out terribly well. Jeandre is grimacing at the back at the thought of that. I think we probably would have walked back faster than we have managed to drive back. In fact, I know we would have walked back faster than we've managed to drive back. At least I suppose we didn't have to call James and ask him to come and tow us. It's such a strange feeling, reaching for the clutch and nothing happens. Oh, I was talking about wildcats and domestic cats and feral cats. There are a lot of very, very committed conservationists that offer free sterilization for domestic cats in areas surrounding the Oh dear. Signal dips. All in all, an interesting end to our sunrise safari. As we went through that dip there, I lost you very briefly.
Did it fly?
Yeah.
Oh dear, I'm so sad. There was a European cuckoo. It's gone. So unfortunately we had to leave those cheetah. They weren't moving and we lost the visual. They went really flat in the grass. So there we go. That's what we were looking at. Well, we were trying, sorry, I can't see. We were trying to show you a European cuckoo. And it's very difficult to tell the difference between a European cuckoo and an African cuckoo, and we're going to have a look right now. Now we're done with falcons, and we want cuckoos. Oh dear, there we go. And I know we did see a European not too long ago. Now, the European cuckoo, actually I think that might be an African. This could be a new one. So, as I said, it's near impossible. They look, say where, I must hold it fine. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So, there's the African cuckoo, there's the European cuckoo. So, at first glance, I thought the black extended quite far down. It doesn't. It only goes halfway. So, an African cuckoo. And, Bryan, did you see where it flew? Oh, we're going to try stalk the cuckoo. So, an African cuckoo. So, very, very, very cool bird. Now, the cuckoos left and came back, and I'm pretty convinced they came back for the caterpillars. Now, caterpillar is the cuckoo's be-all and end-all when it comes to culinary delight. So, a lot of the cuckoo species they left and they moved to an area where there'd been more rain. Then we had that late rain, and they've come back because we have lots of caterpillars about at the moment. But we're going to try see if we can get another visual. It is a long shot of the African cuckoo. I don't. Okay, so that cuckoo flew off in that general direction. And I don't think we're going to have too much chance to see too many more cuckoos before they move off, migrate. So Bryan and I are checking the southern boundary. And so far, no tracks. This area is the home generally to a Tundi. She moves back and forth between this area. So while we continue to check, let us go to Jamie, who is unfortunately going to have to say adieu due to Wendy needing to go visit the car doctor.
I've just been thinking about the fact that you haven't ever really truly lived the bush existence until you have limped a car home in second gear, low range. And I'm trying to count the number of times that I've done this from far further afield than that Tingana sighting. And I've actually lost count now of just how many times I've had to do it. It's just one of those things. Our vehicles are out 3 hours a day, or 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, 6 hours a day, every single day. They take a beating. And yes, sometimes there's a wild dog chase. Sometimes it's just hopping over off the road to see Tingana, but sometimes there's a wild dog chase. And they've earned their right to the odd temper tantrum or snapped clutch cables. So here we come, we're approaching Opa's workshop, Opa being our wonderful mechanic who helps us out with all things gremlin related when it comes to the mechanical working bits of the vehicle. And I'm going to pass Wendy into his into his capable hands. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you, Jeandre, for all of your camera work as always, and thank you to all of you for joining us. I hope that you have enjoyed the sunrise safari, and my apologies for cutting at least Wendy's time a little bit short. Enjoy the rest of your time with Brent, and I will catch up with you on the sunset safari, hopefully with Wendy in tow.
Brent is temporarily unaware of position. So I'm just double checking that I do not meander beyond our traverse. Why are you not working GPS function? Bryan, where are we?
Cheetah Plains. somewhere.
Yes, I'm just trying to work out where we are. Sorry, guys. That is half the fun of being in a new area. Oh, that was very close. We were very close to being very naughty. It's a good thing I stopped when I did. Oh, if we have a look. That part is bad. That part is good. Bad, good. And we nearly went bad. But let's on the side of caution and head in over here. Now this is part of the core area of Tandi's territory, as I was saying. So we are looking for tracks of her. A delightfully warm day. Some layers. So Marcia is wondering, how long does it take us to traverse or get to Cheetah Plains from Djuma? On Gowrie Main, it probably takes us, if we're in a hurry, 20 minutes. If we're not in a hurry, half an hour. I think we could probably do it at a push at 15 minutes, but it would be slightly uncomfortable for the cameraman. There it is. There it is. We were going to go to the mast to look for a certain tree species, but then we got sidetracked by male cheetah, which I think is forgivable. But there it is. That is the Shambok pod, or Cassia abbreviatum. Now let me see if I can find a seed underneath it. So I do apologize. Oh, I forgot again, Brian. The door does not work still. Keep trying to open the door, but I will leap out. Hopefully you'll still be able to hear me when I'm under the tree. Oh, that's a good thing. That was a very not elegant dismount. So, there we go. Whoa. So exciting. A new tree. Now, what I'm looking for is a pod. Show you. Don't see any pods. Can you see me, Brian?
Yeah, kind of.
Can you hear me, Brian?
Yep.
Hi. So I'm looking for the pod at the moment. Unfortunately, I can't even find any remnants of the pod. The termites eat them up. It'll take 2 more seconds to have a squid around. And I think due to, oh, now we have a problem. I see a pod, but it is taller than me, or it's higher than me. So why we have brain and why we have opposable thumbs. I hit the pod, but it's not coming down. We need a bigger stick. In doubt, always find a bigger stick. It's not coming down. Okay, ooh, bigger stick. As I said, when in doubt, get a bigger stick. I think I now have a sufficiently big stick. Oh, so close. Now you can't see me. Success! When in doubt, as I said, get a bigger stick. I think that's how our ancestors survived on the savannas, getting a bigger stick. They probably weren't putting that much effort into retrieving, oh dear, retrieving a seed pod. Now Bryan has caught me. I was trying to sneak into the car. I blame James. He broke the door. I don't know how, but he did. Okay, find my ears. Why are you laughing at me, Bryan? I can hear you laughing. So there we go. Cassia abbreviatum. Look at this beautiful pod called a long-tailed cassia. I hope. So this is already exploded, basically. So I was looking for one of these on the ground. So you can see the little grooves that the seeds would have been sitting on. So as they, sorry, there. You can see those wonderful little grooves. So the seeds sit in there, and then when they pop open, it explodes. And there's quite a few different animals that eat it. I'm trying to find you a seed, but even in the unexploded parts, we found a spider's home, a non-used spider's home, but come on, one seed, that's all we want. Now, there we go. Look at that. So now, it is one of the seeds you find often in civet trees. So civets are a huge fan of the cassia seed and will eat it when it's fresh, not when it's dry and old and unappetizing like this is now. So it's very exciting. We don't often get to see new tree species or show you new tree species. That's why I was so excited to see that cassia. Now, strangely enough, in quite a lot of the parts of the Kruger Park, I've found many, many leopard kills in cassias. And you quite often, if you have a look, well, there are a few small marulas around, but quite often they occur on the very big sort of basalt soils, and there are not a lot of marulas there, and there's not a lot of big trees. So cassia is sort of the go-to leopard tree when they've got a kill, just because there's not a lot of else around there. So they're not that common yet, but that's a really nice big one that we found there, and a very cool seed. Seed pod. But I think I'm going to keep this. It's my first cassia on Cheetah Plains. There are a few around, and when they are fresh, the old name for them, as I said, was a sjambok pod. So named after a whip. And when they're green, they're actually very useful at controlling cameramen or other people around camp. A very effective whip. So apart from the cassia, the majority of the tree species we're going to get here are going to be the same. One thing I'm quite excited about for the next rainy season, I think I'd open. Sorry about that. We're still working out where the gremlins live on Cheetah Plains and where they don't. So I apologize. I'm quite excited for the next rainy season. We're going to get quite a few different flower species we don't get at Djuma on those open sodic sites. So I was misinformed. I thought there were gabbro soils here. There is a tiny bit of gabbro, and we will definitely show it to you at some point. The soil's red, so far more clay. But the majority of those open areas are actually sort of seep-lined sodic site areas where there's a lot of water during the wet season, and it logs that water logs that area, and that causes the trees not to grow, and you do get wonderful grass species. and animals like cheetah, which we saw today. Isn't that exciting? Now, Bryan and I were discussing while we were off air that we seem to be quite a lucky combination, and that was actually Bryan's second cheetah sighting ever. So Bryan is smiling from ear to ear at the moment, and the first cheetah sighting we ever had, well, Bryan's first cheetah sighting was also with me, and we actually watched the quarantine male leopard chase those exact two male cheetah, the same ones. So very interesting, and isn't it nice when you talk a load of nonsense and it pays off? Oh, we're going to see lots of cheetah, we're going to see cheetah at Cheetah Plains, and first time I meander down to the far southeast, cheetah. So, the Lone Star State of Texas is home to Mauricia, and Mauricia would like to know how many cheetah traverse on Cheetah Plains on average. The main ones we're going to see are those two males, and they're patrolling a very set sort of home range. There is a possibility of seeing, I think, two females as well, but they're only seen once every couple of months, and one of them is very, very skittish. I think she comes through from the Kruger. She's not used to cars at all. Sorry, excuse me. I need to find my map before I wander somewhere I'm not supposed to be. What did I do with it? I must... Ah, there it is. Where are we now? Not where I thought we were. Okay, let us go to Djuma Dam. Now, that might confuse the heck out of a lot of you. So, the dam on Djuma that we refer to as the Djuma Dam Cam is called Vuyatela Dam. And Djuma Dam is not on Djuma, it's on Cheetah Plains. Just to add a little bit of confusion to the mix. Just a quick update, those Birmingham Boys, where we had them this morning, was actually very close to the Cheetah Plains, oh, I don't know what's going on, boundary, and they have unfortunately moved off. So we will not be seeing them again this morning, but it was very exciting to start with them. Okay, so I do apologize. It won't be too long where we don't have to look at the maps, but for the first week or two, I think we're going to be checking the maps quite extensively. So I don't know if James managed to get here yesterday, but for the first or possibly second time on SafariLIVE, welcome to Djuma Dam. And there's, of course, absolutely nothing. Ah, see, James beat me to it. Apparently, he visited here yesterday. Not much happening at Djuma Dam. And no leopard tracks as of yet. But with the way our luck's going this morning, you never know. There could be a leopard around the corner. So we had not the most wonderful, but a very exciting time with those cheetah. And a girl would like to know what a king cheetah looks like, and can I show you one? Now, a king cheetah is a genetic mutation. So it is not something that is very common, and I don't think there's been one seen in the wild for about 15 or 20 years. They're in captivity. But one of the last king cheetah born in the wild was born actually in the community areas just outside the Sabi Sands. So the genes for the king cheetah do survive in this area, and I actually have a picture. I think I have a picture. Just 1 second. Big cats. There we go. So that's a picture of the skin of a king cheetah. So it's actually where? How's that, Bryan? There.
All right.
Can I move it to make it better?
Can you make your screen brighter?
I think I might be able to. Sorry, guys. No, it's on full brightness. Sorry. Let's try like that. There we go. And you can see the spots actually become stripes. So that is a skin of a king cheetah. And then, oh, let's turn him around. Sorry, Bryan, I know I'm being. That is a king cheetah cub. And that one was born from the female that comes from Acorn Hook, which is the village just outside the Sabi Sands. Very interesting. So we would probably do a dance of absolute joy. I think I would probably run around screaming like a banshee if we found a king cheetah. But hopefully, you never know. That's the joy. And one incredible thing about having access to Cheetah Plains is that Kruger National Park boundary. Then there's no people there. There are no cars. So very exciting. The animals that come out of there can be really wild, really nervous of vehicles. And we get the fun job of teaching them that we're not so bad. And we're not out to get them. And it is a hugely rewarding process habituating animals. Most of the animals, of course, will have been already habituated, but there's always that chance we're going to see a new cheetah, a new lion, a new leopard coming through from the Kruger. Herbert wants to know if I can do a cheetah call. I'm trying to think about how to do it. It's a very, very difficult call to emulate. One must remember it is not a Panthera species, it's not a big cat, so it can't roar. It actually sounds like a bird chirping. What I'll do is I will try, I think I have a recording of cheetah calling on my computer. So what I'll do is I'll move it across during the day and I'll play it for you on the Sunset Safari. Now, on a funny story talking about cheetah calling, I'm not going to say where and I'm not going to say who, but a few years ago in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, not too far to the south of where we are now, I was sitting in a cheetah sighting, a female with 5 cubs, and there was a relatively newbie, a greenhorn guide, and he was sitting next to his tracker, and we were watching this mother cheetah call for her cubs, and that high-pitched, very sort of bird-like chirp. And he turned to his tracker and said, "Mfo, I've never heard that bird before. What is it?" I nearly fell out of my vehicle. My tracker, the indomitable Simon Machbula, just started his very deep laugh. And he carried on for the rest of the drive. And I felt incredibly bad for that poor young guide as his tracker turned around and went, "Ish, Matangan." He said, "Shikankang." He said, "Crazy person, it's a cheetah, not a bird." But one must remember, we all got to start somewhere and we all got to learn. So as we near the end of the sunrise safari, we are going to start moving our way towards our breakfast, which is quite far away, but it has been absolutely fantastic getting to explore a new area with all of you, and hopefully we'll be back this afternoon, and hopefully those cheetah move to the north. But from Bryan, the thumb, and time, whatever time zone you're in, and we'll see you on the Sunset Safari.
Good morning and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. We're looking across to the eastern side of quarantine and watching a male wildebeest disappear. Jeandre and myself had planned a beautiful opening shot. I say that like I had any role. The wildebeest and Jeandre had planned a beautiful opening shot before the wildebeest decided to disappear off to the east towards the pan. But yes, good morning and welcome to our live safaris. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Jamie. I have Jeandre on camera, and Brent is out with Bryan. And we have some exciting things planned for you. We're coming to you live from Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands, which falls into the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And please send through your questions and your comments. You can do that on hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Just watching the impala have an interesting time of things as they come into their rutting season, the males and the females separating into their respective herds, with large males presiding over the harem. It's interesting how impala gather temporary groups of females at this particular time of year. And some of them just peak that little bit too early. They separate the females, they fight off other males, but unfortunately for them, the females are not yet coming into estrus. So their chances of mating for the next, probably about, if we're in the middle of April, or almost the middle of April, they've probably got another 2 weeks to wait before the females come into estrus. And our wonderful leopard characters, of course, capitalizing on the distraction of the male impala. Shadow 2 nights ago, and Karula yesterday. And of course, I have to mention that we had the most incredible drive yesterday afternoon. I know that Brent is on his way to Cheetah Plains. James was there for the first time yesterday. A totally new traverse area for us. Exploring and getting to know the area. And myself and Bryan spent some serious quality time, and that's the only way that I could describe it. Some serious quality time with Karula and her 2 tiny, tiny cubs, the Queen of Djuma, the leopardess whose territory falls around the heart of Djuma. Oh. There's that peculiar male rutting sound. I can hear him, and all of the females have scattered, slowly but surely, as they canter across the road. It highlights very much the confusion that the males throw the different individuals into. Oh, there he is. I'm just having a look at the male who has now decided he is the king of the castle on top of his termite mound. He was responsible for those very peculiar grunting sounds that are unique to impala during the rutting season. That's interesting. That little impala is probably not really capable of challenging him. Much smaller, the one on the left. Little female dancing away as soon as the big male looks at her. And most of these little sparring sessions are relatively gentle for now. Ooh. I say relatively. These two are actually not, neither of them are actually fully grown. Even the male on the left, which is slightly further along in his development, probably by about a year. And he's definitely not the largest male impala. He just happens to be the one that has gathered the most females for now. And that's probably why he hasn't chased.
So exciting, the first big cats seen on Cheetah Plains. And it is two Birmingham boys, and isn't that just the most special scene as they lie together? And those coalition bonds between male lions are wonderful. It's a bit like Bryan and myself with our long hair. I mean, we like to cuddle sometimes as well.
No, it's mine.
Jamie's given us permission. So, very, very exciting. The first big cats on Cheetah Plains and extension of the Traverse. And this is why this area is so important. We get access not only to some new leopards, but to the Birmingham Boys who spend a lot of time in this area. And that is just one of the best sights ever. So Leslie, who's in California, probably warmer than me right now, would like to know, is there any news on the injured Birmingham boy? I'm not sure, Leslie. I will try to find out for you. But as I said, I did speak to Candace from the Sabi Sands, and she thought he was just a bit skinny and he'll be completely fine. What I'll do is I'll ask Mike. I'll ask Mike from Cheetah Plains whether he's heard any news. So we're literally just in front of the Cheetah Plains Lodge, and there is the third Birmingham boy lying right in front of us. So Mike, is one of these the injured one? No. There we go, guys. Mike from Cheetah Plains says he's moved off and he is looking a bit better. So hopefully he's going to be just fine. And these animals have an incredible from multiple injuries. I mean, I've seen male lions that I've been sure are going to die, and a week later, fat, happy, and fornicating occasionally. But as you can see, these guys at the moment had a busy, busy night. I did hear them roaring at about 11 o'clock last night. And how wonderful it is that we can actually hear lions roaring and head towards where they might be. So I know I've just heard lots of you guys are taking screenshots, so you've inspired me to take a photograph, because that is just a wonderful scene. So there are quite a lot of people waiting to get into the sighting, so we're not going to be able to stay too long. We can come back later. I'm just listening to the Game Drive radio at the moment. Look at that. It does look like a very comfortable nook to rest your chin on. So it's very difficult to see if they are full or skinny. I think they're a bit skinny, and Jaguar Sharkman was wondering whether they fed last night. I don't think so. So I don't think they're fed, and let's hope they find the buffalo close by. But I think they're not going to move too much from here now, even though it is quite a cool morning. Yes. Very unimpressed with life. Sorry guys, just got to be on the game drive for a second. Mike, how many vehicles are making their way here? Sorry guys, I'll be with you in a second. I just need to sort out the lineup for the sighting, and then I'll be back with you. Whoever's first standby, make your way. When you get to the entrance to the lodge, I'll make space. Yeah. Sorry guys, it's getting a little bit complicated, yeah? Tax. Taxis, 2 stations here now, and 3 making their way. I'll make space for you. No, only 2. I'll move out for you. So guys, we'll come back here. I promise we're going to come back here shortly. But there's just quite a lot of vehicles. I want to get and see these boys. So we're gonna move out. We're gonna explore more of Cheetah Plains, and then we'll be back here because this is the only way in and out. So we have no choice but to come back here. And isn't that an exciting option? So while we move out of here, let's give you one last look at the sleeping lions. And while we do that, and we're gonna move out, let's go across to Jamie and see what she's up to.
Oh. So far, having investigated all the way around Gallagher Pan and Djuma Waterhole, I haven't come across any tracks. It doesn't mean that a leopard didn't go wandering by at some point yesterday evening, but it does probably mean that it wasn't lions that the monkeys were alarm calling at. And the reason I say that is generally, almost always, lions will walk across the road. It's hyena. Their paw prints are tricking me. But yes, a lot of the time lions will walk across the road, but also because there's more of them, they're automatically easier to see the tracks for than leopards are, which makes me think it wasn't the lions that came by. There is one other explanation for monkey alarm calls around the waterhole, and that is that a Verreaux's eagle owl, or something similar, maybe a spotted eagle owl might have come through, and that would have caused the monkeys' alarm calls. So Varroas specialize, and we know that there's a pair that live or have a territory around the Djuma Dam pan. They specialize in hunting animals like monkeys or even guinea fowl roosting at the top of on the top of trees. They will specialize in swooping in and catching them. And I still remember very vividly sitting outside with Scott and Nikki and a couple of other team members when I first started working in this, working at WildEarth. And we were sitting outside back when we all used to move about Ingers, and when a couple of us used to live at Ingers. And an eagle owl caught a guinea fowl right in the jackalberry above our heads, and then struggled. The guinea fowl was so heavy that it struggled to pull it out of the tree and ended up dropping it right next to us. So that might be a possible explanation for the alarm calls that Jeandre heard. I mentioned that I saw hyena tracks. I doubt it was the hyena that the guinea fowl were alarm calling at and the monkeys were alarm calling at. Generally, monkeys are exceptionally reliable witnesses. They alarm call only at the big cats, particularly leopards, and certain leopards will go out of their way to climb into a tree to try and hunt and catch monkeys. And they will alarm call at birds of prey as well. And their eyesight, unlike most of the animals out here, is in full color. As we go off in search of the reason, or at least the tracks of the reason behind the alarm calling monkeys, Genevieve in New York, you were wondering whether or not a leopard would ever follow, or whether a leopard would ever... Jeandre's got to windscreen wipe our lens, which is, it's so dewy, and actually I'll stop for a moment, not to make Jeandre's life difficult, just because it's such a pretty view in its own way. Sorry, Genevieve, I will get back to you in a moment. I'm just looking at the chloris grass in the dew, Jeandre, on the top of that termite mound, the fluffy grass. So the dew point, obviously a little bit lower than it usually is, and it's causing our camera to mist up first thing in the morning. Still misting.
Sorry, bro.
It's all right, Jeandre, it's not your fault.